Hi, everyone. Okay, so I have another little mini lecture for you here, and I believe that I've mentioned the book Resilient to you at this point, but I want to share with you that many of the things that we'll be talking about this semester come from a book by Dr. Rick Hanson called Resilient. And the material that I want to share with you today comes from this book as well. And I also recommend this book. I think this book is great if you want to get it for yourself. I know I like reading. I like reading myself as well. But I want to share with you a few ideas that I think will be really useful for you as you continue to think about thought and use your mind. So the place I want to start is a short activity, and you can see this at the bottom of the screen. And what I would say is I'm not going to stop, but I would encourage you to pause and set a timer for 2 minutes and do what's called a thought download. So I love thought downloads. I think they're a really useful activity for us. And the thing that you do in a thought download, and I love to use paper for this. You could also use your computer, but I like to use paper, is to write down stream of consciousness what's on your mind today. So everything that's on your mind today, you're just going to be writing it down, thinking and noticing. Well, actually not even thinking, but just noticing what are the thoughts? What are the thoughts that are showing up in my mind today? Okay. So you may want to pause the recording now, set a 2-minute timer, and do a thought download. I'm going to pick up hoping that you have done the 2 minutes and that you have this thought download with you. And I want to share with you, you're going to just set it aside for a little while and share with you what you might do with this thought download and how this might help you to think about thought. So Hanson suggests that there are 3 things that we can do with our thoughts. We can let them be, we can let them go, or we can let them in. And we're going to talk more about each of these right now. So the first idea is to let our thoughts be. And you can think about this as when you're looking at your thoughts, you can think about what thoughts do I just want to let be right now? It's my dog in the background. And this idea is to be with what's there. To feel the feelings, experience the experience, the bitter as well as the sweet. And in the process of being with a thought, that experience might change for you, but you're not trying to deliberately change it. You're just being with your thoughts. So one thing that you can do with thoughts is just let them be. And from there, you may notice that there's some thoughts that you want to let go. So the idea here is to decrease the negative, whatever is painful or harmful, by preventing, reducing, or ending it. A way of thinking about this is to step away from self-critical thoughts. So in an example like this, a let be thought may be, oh, I missed my homework deadline. Oh my gosh. And that thought may be like, I procrastinated. I know I procrastinated. That may be a thought to just let be. I procrastinated, I know I procrastinated, and I missed my deadline. Those are useful things to let be, to be aware that you might have done. The let go thoughts are those thoughts that become more critical. And I know I work with enough people, and I also have my own mind to know that there are inner critic thoughts that show up for us, that there are critical thoughts that show up for us that may feel painful or harmful. For example, taking that a step further, the example of like missing your homework, then being like, I'm a terrible person. I'm the worst. I suck. I'm such an idiot, right? Or whatever your version of those inner critic thoughts are. That those thoughts then are ones that Hanson would suggest you can let go. They're not helping you, right? Those thoughts aren't helping. These are thoughts that hinder you when you are really in a negative spiral. And then Hanson would suggest that there are thoughts that you want to let in. So those are, like it says here, increasing the positive, whatever is beneficial and enjoyable by creating, preserving, and growing it. So the idea here then is that you may let thoughts in. You may, in this example that I was giving you, maybe what you let in is a thought that says, I know I can do better next week. I know I can manage my time better. I know I can set aside more time to study. I won't miss any more deadlines, and I can totally pass this class, right? Or whatever it is. I mean, I'm extending that just to give you examples of what you want to let in terms of thoughts. And sometimes you have to be really intentional about those. So you can think about this. Another way of thinking about this is the metaphor of a garden. You can think of your mind like a garden. And in this example of thinking about your mind like a garden, you can think about what is in a garden, right? In terms of what you might let be. Maybe you have carrots and you're just going to let those carrots be. They're just going to be there. You're just going to observe them like we see here. And then maybe you think about the thoughts of your mind, the garden thoughts of your mind that are weeds, that you're like, you know what? Not good for my garden. I need to pull those weeds. I need to let those thoughts go. And then from there, what do you need to let in, right? What flowers do you need to plant in your garden? This is just another way of thinking about your thoughts in your mind. But I would love to invite you to go back to this thought download that I had you do a little while ago, and maybe you pause the recording here again and notice in your thoughts, what thoughts am I going to let be? Am I just going to be okay with that wherever I'm at there with those thoughts? What thoughts do I need to let go? Maybe you draw a line, like cross those out. I need to let these go. And what thoughts might you need to let in? So even if you have them, maybe you circle them and say, okay, this is a let in thought. I need to tell myself, yes, I can do better at this. Or maybe you even write some new let in thoughts, new things that you want to keep in mind as you are noticing and being aware of your thoughts that help you. So you may want to pause the recording here and do that. I would encourage you to. I think it's a great practice. And I'll move on for now, hoping that you've paused and done that labeling, to a couple of other ideas. So these are some other ways that we can engage our minds. And one of those is by caring for your needs. So the idea here is, again, Hanson shares with us that psychologists theorize we have 3 basic needs. And you probably come across these before if you're taking any kind of psychology or other class, that we have 3 basic needs. These needs are for safety, satisfaction, and connection. And these seem fairly straightforward, but let's talk about them just a little bit more. Safety makes sense if you've ever thought about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This is a pretty basic need for us. And in Hanson's work, he would suggest that you want to notice when you feel uneasy or irritated or overwhelmed, and notice what beliefs are making you anxious. Just notice them, right? What thoughts are making you feel anxious? There's a lot of reasons why someone might feel anxious. There's a lot of reasons why someone might be struggling with this. And just to be clear, sometimes there are situations where you are straight up unsafe, and that's important to recognize as well. Other situations where your mind is increasing the anxiety around feeling unsafe. And so those might be different. Those are probably different situations for you. But the idea here is that when it feels right, if there's something where you're, just cyclical thinking about something that's stressing you out, when it feels right, you can shift to letting go and letting in, finding a place of safety, even in your mind, to settle into a place of peace, right? So where can you find peace from what you're letting go and letting in? From there, we have satisfaction. With satisfaction, Hanson would suggest being aware of feelings of boredom, of disappointment, of frustration or loss. And after you've explored that experience, think of things that you're grateful for and glad about, and see if you can find a place of contentment, a place of satisfaction. Again, notice that a lot of this you can do in your mind, right? You can control in your mind and with your thoughts. And finally, we have connection, right? That we have this need for connection. So notice when you feel hurt, resentment, envy, loneliness, inadequacy. Be with that, whatever those feelings are, and then eventually recall times where you felt cared about, times where you felt friendly or caring even towards yourself. Notice that this can be even towards yourself. It's great if you feel it from other people too, but you can feel these things and think these things in relation to yourself. And just rest in that love, that feeling of love flowing in and out. That's the feeling of connection. So just to summarize and think about these just a little bit further, we manage these. We manage our thoughts of safety by seeking to avoid harm, satisfaction by approaching rewards, approaching things we think will reward us, and connection by attaching to others, right? Getting connected to others, and I would also say to ourselves. So in this way, well-being comes from meeting our needs and not denying them. Meeting our needs and not denying them. Now, this is why this becomes important, even more important, because as you'll see here, when we experience our needs being met, when we feel like our needs are being met, when we're thinking in ways that have our needs being met, then our mind and body enter what's called a green zone or a responsive mode. We have a sense of peace, contentment, and love. Notice that this doesn't mean everything's perfect in somebody's life, but that there is this embodied well-being that's happening when our needs of safety, satisfaction, and connection are being met. And by the way, this is a great time to study. This is a great time to study and learn when you're in your green zone. It's also great for your relationships. And the other side of this is if we feel like our needs, if we perceive that our needs are unmet, we may feel disturbed into the fight, flight, or freeze, or red zone. You're probably familiar with this red zone. It's also called the reactive mode. And in this space, there's often a sense of fear, frustration, and hurt. And we probably all know what this feels like too, right? This is not the greatest time to study, not the greatest time to learn when we're in our red zone. It's also not great for our relationships when we're in our reactive mode or in our red zone. And this is important to recognize. This is when our needs are unmet, feel unmet, right? And so to conclude this idea for now, to stay in the green zone, take in your experiences of your needs being met. How do you notice and let in those thoughts of your needs being met? And how do you find even more ways to have your needs be met? This grows your inner resources. So the more we're in our green zone, the more we're noticing our needs being met. This means that we are in a place where we can handle larger and larger challenges with resilient well-being. And this is the goal, right? As we continue in our university studies and our lives, we want to be in a place of resilient well-being, which is our green zone. So I'm hoping that this idea of what thoughts we might want to let be, let go, and let in, and the idea that connected to how we care for our needs for safety, satisfaction, and connection will help you to start noticing, when are you in your green zone? How can you connect back in terms of how you're managing your thoughts to be more in your green zone? And when might you be in your red zone, right? That's okay too. Sometimes we're in our red zone and it's valuable to notice, okay, I'm in my red zone right now. That is a reminder to me that I need to work on getting my needs met, whether this is through my own thoughts or changing things in my life so that my needs can be more often met and I can be in my green zone more often. So I encourage you to keep thinking about this, keep being with these ideas, and we'll continue to build on these throughout the semester. But thank you for being with me through this conversation today.